You have the picture.
All right, you guys. Welcome to today's live stream. Today we're going to be talking about willpower and how to gain willpower, and if willpower is something that you should even be working towards. So Chris brought up a really good point to me today about willpower. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Hello, everyone. We were just talking about when we want to make changes in our life, and I'm sure most people are familiar with the old saying that if you do what you always did, you're going to get what you always got. Or the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to no fab, if we try to use willpower, then that's mental. That's basically coming from the mind. So it's almost like mental fortitude. We're just trying to, will ourselves into not, masturbating, as opposed to actually transforming ourself in a way that we don't have those desires.
And where you don't even need willpower because you just naturally what you want to do. It's like if you aren't smoking cigarettes already, then you don't need willpower to not smoke cigarettes. You just already aren't doing it, and eventually you'll get to that point with NoFap too if you stick with it long enough, and if you come at it from the right desire. So do you have any examples or anything people could think about when they need to practice their willpower? If an urge comes up, does that mean they just give into it, or how do they handle it in that moment?
Well, there's a lot of examples of people failing, and I'm sure there's examples of people succeeding, but we'll just remind you of some of those examples of the journey where people actually stumble. Let's just say they stumble. I don't like to use those words, failure. But for example, somebody, like she mentioned, somebody that's trying to quit smoking, and then maybe they throw a pack of cigarettes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then go buy another pack. But cigarettes are really expensive now. Back in the day when I was growing up, they were a lot cheaper, so it was easy to throw them away. But even if somebody's trying to stop eating a certain way, and drive past a Wendy's or Burger King or McDonald's and then make a U-turn and go back in there because they just don't have the willpower to not do it. So willpower, I guess, has its moments, but I think it's really about that transformation into who you believe you are. And by that I mean, when you believe you can do something, if you believe that that's who you are, that at least that's the foundation. That's where you start from. But if you never even examine that, who am I? Can I really do this?
So can you talk about your experience with willpower? If it has, for instance, when you went vegan and stuff, when you first went vegan, did you have to practice any willpower at all when it came to passing by Wendy's or seeing a slice of pizza or stuff like that?
No, I didn't. But I would give an example of willpower. Okay. Then she forced me to do this. But this was years ago. Because I used to smoke a long time ago.
Cigarettes?
Yeah. And I was saying how whenever I was ready to quit, I did just throw the pack away because they didn't cost that much. Mm-hmm. But then the next day I was buying another pack, and I kept trying to stop just using willpower. I just said, I'm going to do this. I was talking to myself about, this isn't good for you. You're breathing smoke into your lungs, blah, blah, blah. But right back at the store buying a pack the next day. Well, eventually I did get to the place where I withstood the temptation long enough to go beyond, I guess, the time frame that's necessary to achieve that goal. Like, for example, if you want to start a new habit, it's said that it takes 28 days or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So what I will say is this, and you talk about this all the time, which is that you have to just once you get over the hump, you're over the hump. Mm-hmm. With masturbation, no fap, it's a lot harder because we talked about this in a video earlier that you don't have to go to the liquor store. You don't have to buy cigarettes. All you need is right there. It's all within the body. So it makes it a lot more challenging since you don't have to. It's not like you say you're not going to drink, you're not going to smoke, and you don't have any alcohol or cigarettes in the house, and you say, "Oh, I'm just not going out and getting them." So they're not there. But with no fab, I mean, we're talking about our own bodies. So
it's there all the time.
It's there all the time. So it does make it challenging. But so with this no fab thing, it's a huge opportunity for growth, and not just from refraining from that, but it's an opportunity to show you how, you can be successful and you can achieve things in life, and more about, your abilities as an individual and what you're really capable of. And I think it's about testing your confidence in yourself, your trust in yourself,
It's like everything. Yeah, it's because I really believe that if you can gain control over this, then every other thing in your life becomes so much easier to gain control over, because the sexual energy, the sexual urges are just so powerful, you know? And so if you're able to get that under control, then everything else becomes so much easier after that, because it's like, I don't know, it's like that's the base of your life. And so just shifting the base automatically changes your desires and what you want and everything. It's kind of like how we were talking about with going vegan. Like, I mean, for me, it did take willpower, honestly, at first when I went vegan, because I was doing it for the animals, not really for health. But still, there would be times, you know, where like there are times when temptation will present itself to you, but at that moment, it's just important to always think about how you'll feel after doing it, because it's always like things only seem good right before you're about to do it, but then after you do it, just focus on how you're going to feel afterwards, you know? At least that's my advice.
Yeah, and I've heard you use the example of the donut or the unhealthy food.
Right.
I mean, it tastes good when we're eating it, especially if it's something that's unhealthy. It tastes good to the taste buds, but how does it affect your body? What does your body get any nutritional value from that? Is it just something that your body has to, expend energy to process and eliminate? Does it add to, the things that we don't want to add to our body, like excess fat or cholesterol or sugar or salt or things like that that really are not benefiting us? But as far as you talked about being a vegan or vegetarian, I kind of did it like you. I did it for the animals, but from a spiritual standpoint, meaning everything is energy and everything. So animals are energy, but they also they have a spirit. So their energy is something that I wasn't willing to ingest and blend with my energy, because the way they're treated and actually eating them to me was a negative form of energy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the animal itself was negative, but just eating flesh.
Their fear, their suffering.
Yeah. So we exposed to energy every day, all day long. So it just depends on what type of energy we're exposed to, and if we're aware of that energy, we can be more. We can protect ourselves better, or at least, put ourselves in a position where we are exposed to the type of energy that we want to be exposed to on a daily basis. So yeah, with will versus transformation. So let's talk a little bit about transformation, because I think that's what you've been working with these last 45 days now. Is it 45, 46 days?
45 now.
45 days. That's halfway there.
Halfway there, yeah.
And so it's a transformation process. And it's always going to be easier to transform if we're not resisting. Resisting creates a different type of energy. And then resistance is like, that's going to push back.
Yeah.
So when you resist something, you push against, it pushes back. So we talk about, the spiritual components, the energetic components, and that's really important. It's really important. We're not just physical beings, and we want to, understand a little bit more about ourselves from an energetic standpoint, so that we can, I don't want to say manipulate, but we can affect our energy in a way that is going to benefit us, especially when it comes to something like trying to refrain from, masturbation and things like that. So we need to understand how to work with our energy, because that's all we are, and that's all everything else is. And I think even having that perspective is transformative. Understanding that that's a transformation. So transformation is a change. So you're changing the way you think, or changing what you believe. And it's a whole bundle of transformations going on, from what you think, what you believe, what you do, what you know about yourself, what you say about yourself. And so I think the first thing is to get that understanding that you are, in control, even though it might not seem that way, especially with people that, keep relapsing. But
well, that's the thing too, is that, I mean, this might get a little far out, but okay, so it's like, how sometimes when you masturbate, or especially if you're watching porn, you almost feel like you're in a trance, or like you're kind of like there's almost like there's a spell that's being cast upon you, and you're in a trance when you're doing it. And it's the same thing even with when you're eating unhealthy food. Like there's times where it's like the food's right there. Yeah, your burger, your ice cream. And like, it's almost like you aren't even the one eating it. It's almost like there's something inside of you that's possessing you, and you're just like feeding that, whatever that energy is. So I think something that can really help when you feel like, yeah, you are out of control is to disidentify with that, like to not think that that's you, but that's actually like an energetic entity that is almost like with taken control of your body in a certain way. And I know it sounds scary, but it's more like there's certain, like whatever, like the way that you man, I'm trying to find the words for it, but it's like things can only come into your body if you're at the same frequency as that thing. So it's like if you're eating a bunch of unhealthy food, that makes way for energies to come within you that do other unhealthy things, like tempt you to masturbate, tempt you to watch porn. Like that's why people fall into those cycles where it's like people who eat a bunch of burgers, they get sleepy after it and they decide to, not go out and take a walk. Instead, they're going to sit back, and it's like each of your habits plugs you into a whole loop of behavior. And so when you can make one little change in your behavior, that immediately plugs you into like a different loop of behavior. So for instance, like even if you feel like you're out of control with NoFap, even though it might seem unrelated, just to gain control of your eating habits could set you up to succeed with NoFap. Because immediately when you change your eating habits, your thinking is different, the way you feel is different. It won't allow certain like lower energies to inhabit your body that might lead you to other bad decisions. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that kind of goes in line with what I was saying about excuse me, about being aware of your energy, being aware of the fact that you are energy, being aware of the energy that surrounds you and the energy that you expose yourself to. And so as you mentioned, when you can just break the cycle a little bit by changing your frequency to a certain degree, then that's the type of energy you'll start to attract towards you. And so we need to understand that we are creating our own reality. So I was saying earlier about NoFap is a way to, transform your whole life. And you mentioned how if you can do this, you probably can be successful with anything else in life, which is pretty much true. As far as a willpower versus transformation, there probably does have to be a certain amount of willpower.
In the beginning, at least.
Yeah, just at the beginning, because you have to sustain sustain that those urges. Not sustain, but you have to be able to withstand those. You have to withstand those, and that's going to take a little willpower. And as you withstand those, then that gives you confidence. And then as you have confidence is a different vibration. Then, you mentioned something that's really important too when you talked about how people, when they're eating or they're masturbating, whatever, they're just in a trance.
Yeah.
It's not even them. So what it said is if you're not inside of your body, then
who is
right. If you're not there, then you leaving it. It's open for any other energy or entity to come in and control your body. And it might not seem like that, but if you're caught up in this struggle trying to stop this, then you're like, I'm doing the best I can, but obviously there is some force that keeps pushing you back towards that. So there very well could be another entity, but be that as it may.
And you can feel it too. Oh yeah, but what were you gonna say? Be that as it may.
I was gonna say, be that as it may, it's still up to you.
Yeah.
It's your body, and you got to take control of it. You got to take it back, and you got to trust yourself. You got to believe in yourself. You got confidence in yourself, and all the things that you talk about as far as the things that help to build confidence and that help to build, belief, that help to build, not necessarily distraction, but changing your vibrational frequency by doing different things, things to take your mind off of that. Until
confidence,
I was gonna say until you can get to the place where you feel confident enough to withstand those urges. I remember asking you a couple of weeks ago about, or I think it was last week, but I asked you, how do you consider somebody that's like doing NoFap? Is it like somebody that's like an alcoholic or drug addict and they can never masturbate again because they just might relapse and just go crazy again? Or, and you said, I think you said, what did you say?
Well, I said that ideally, you should be able to masturbate mindfully in a way where you're not like where it's coming truly out of self-love and not out of escapism, because there's a difference. It's kind of the difference between like exercising because you hate your body or exercising because you know you're worthy of good health. And if you're like, anytime your motivation, like the motivation you have going into something will that will be the results. Like whatever energy you go into things with, that's the energy that will still be contained in the result. So like someone who is exercising because they hate their bodies, typically what happens is they're consistent for like a short amount of time and then they fall off and then they're back on the couch again. And it's because they didn't have a healthy motivation going into it. And if the things you have don't have healthy motivation behind it, then it's going to end up with unhealthy outcomes, you know? So someone who is exercising because they love their body and they know they're worthy of good health, they're more likely to be consistent and they're more likely to see success. And it's the same thing with masturbation. If your motivation behind masturbation is out of lust, or if it's out of escapism, or it's out of just reacting to things, then it's not going to give you a good result. If you go into it with a true desire to show love to yourself and to kind of like be connected to this like infinite source of energy, because that's what masturbation has the potential to connect you with, then the result will be different. But typically if you are in alignment with that energy, then masturbating, you'll find, will be very rare. Like it won't be like, you won't experience that urge on a regular basis. Like you'll be so in tune with like when the right moment to do that is, because it'll be with the flow of life. Like life will set you up for the moment where it wants you to do that, because it wants to give you some kind of insider information when you do that. But do you kind of get what I mean? It's like,
I do. I think one of the main points you made was that when you're doing stuff from a place of love, as opposed to for example, when you said somebody that maybe starts to exercise because they just don't like their body, or they doing it because they love to exercise,
and they know they're worthy of loving their bodies, you know. It's a difference.
And so when you know you're worthy of loving yourself, and you're worthy of being free from, so when I asked that question about will somebody always be like a serial masturbator, or can they don't have to wear a title like that, but you know, when you're at the place where you can decide, well, I don't want to do that today, and that's the end of it. You say I don't want to do it and you don't do it. It's not like there's something that's driving you to do it. And so all that again goes back to transforming your perspective, your perception, and yourself. I think it's really about transforming yourself, because I mean, obviously you're the one that's deciding to do it or not to do it. And I mean, it could be on another level though. So when I say deciding to do it, I don't mean, you know, there's a part of you that's driving you to do that. And usually that could be subconscious. And we don't know enough about our subconscious. Most people don't know enough about their subconscious to be able to go in and rewrite that type of program, because those types of situations will be solidified by doing stuff over and over again. So subconsciously, if we keep doing something over and over again, then it gets ingrained, and that's where it's ingrained. So in order to, you know, change or transform that habit or situation, we have to get inside there where its foundation is, and restructure that foundation.
Exactly.
So then you can be at the place where you can decide, well, I don't feel like masturbating today, and there's nothing that's gonna, you know, force you to do it.
Right.
You know, and then you mentioned this quite a few times as far as like, I think porn is one of the things that a lot of people kind of start watching porn, and then it kind of gets you to the place where it's time to masturbate, but you can get to the place where you don't even really want to watch porn anymore.
Oh yeah.
You know? And so
definitely. I know like there have been times where I've looked back at porn out of curiosity, and it does not give me the same reaction that it used to give me, where it's like before, it would really like turn me on or whatever. Whereas now when I look at it, it just doesn't do that. It like, I don't know. It's like,
that's called transformation.
Yeah, that's transformation, It's like the same thing with cheese, I remember cheese was the hardest thing to give up when I went vegan. And I remember I think 4 or 5 months after I went vegan at first, I decided to try a slice of cheese pizza again, just to try it. And it was so gross. I remember I thought it was going to taste good, and then I ate it, and it was I couldn't even finish it because the cheese, my taste buds changed by that point. So where the cheese tasted just like mucus, and it was like, ugh. So
you make a great point, because I think people just need to give themselves a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give yourself a chance. By that, I mean, a lot of times when people they quit smoking and they smoke a cigarette 3 months later, it tastes terrible. They quit eating cheese and they taste it again, it tastes terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, if you give yourself a chance to get over it, then you probably won't feel the same way about it as you did when you were hooked on it or locked into that state of being or way of thinking.
Right.
And I definitely understand this. I think we all understand that, we all have our challenges. All of us have challenges in life.
Yeah.
And when you're facing those challenges, being aware that that's one of your challenges is the first step. Because you're okay, this is one of my challenges. Like, for example, with me, I need a chauffeur, put it like that. I need a chauffeur, because I feel like people out here are driving while they're on their phones, or they're just not paying attention. And it's just, it can be irritating.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm in charge of myself, my emotions, and so on and so forth. So that shouldn't even irritate me. And sometimes it doesn't. My point being that, even so with No Fap, I can understand, we're working on transforming ourselves to the place where we can, be in a situation that doesn't affect us in a negative way.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't affect us at all. And I think that's what's important about understanding how everything is energy. And then it's a change. It's a paradigm shift. It's a perspective shift from how we're used to seeing things and how we're used to understanding things. So when we look at stuff on a much larger scale, then we can look at it as something totally different than what it appears in the form.
Yeah.
Like Edgar told you, to say the form. The form can be a thought, it can be a word, it can be an actual object, or it can be an emotion. But it's something that's taken a form. And that's what we experience, the form of, we're having a conversation. We're taking possibilities and putting them into words, or we did an activity, we're taking possibilities of energy and putting it into the form of action. If it's music, it's sound, if it's, so on and so forth, but we're putting it to a form. And so when we can look at stuff from its truest perspective, its highest possible potential, that means that it's just energy. It doesn't have any definitive label attached to it. And so when we can start looking at things like that, then, because the labels are what cause us to react, because we say that was stupid. So that's the label, stupidity. And how do you react to stupidity? Or somebody says something, does something, whatever label you attach to that, and how do you react to that particular label that you attach to that? But if you don't attach a label to something, then there's no reaction attached to it.
That's so true. That's so true. That's really good advice. I never thought of it like that.
So yeah, so we, so that's what I mean about understanding who we are, and then rising above, these and not sometimes we don't define a lot of things in society, in the culture, in the world, and tradition. Those are always the things already defined for us.
Yeah, people define things for you, exactly. But that's the key, is that knowing that you're much bigger than these definitions that other people want to put on you. So it's and that's the thing too, is that, everyone is going to be really quick to put labels on you. So you might as well not add to that by calling yourself a chronic masturbator or porn addict or whatever, all this stuff, because then you end up identifying with it, and then it becomes harder to stop those things. And if you do want to label yourself, if anything, then just keep labeling yourself in a way that takes you in the direction of where you want to go. Like I am a overcomer of challenges or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm a transformer. I'm an alchemizer. I change energy, stuff like that.
Just see yourself where you want to be. We talked about that a little bit ago. Basically, as far as what you say, even if it's, it's not So let's say you're masturbating every day, but just say I am free of this uh, behavior, and you're not. So are you in denial? Not necessarily. I mean, you have to start somewhere, and sometimes you have to start with just a thought, just a word, just a belief. That's where you start. So, so I'm involved in physical fitness, and we tell people when they first come to the gym, let's say Alana's never worked out in life. She's 50 pounds overweight, a real big fat girl.
Oh my God.
And so she said, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to the gym. She's been saying it for 3 years, and she finally got the nerve up to come into the gym. So first things first, she walked into the gym. She has overcome the first hurdle. The first hurdle and the first benefit is the psychological benefit. The fact that she's been talking about doing it, she finally did it. Just she hadn't even worked out yet, but she's at the gym. Psychologically, she's made a step in the right direction. So then we start exercising. So then physically, her body's going to feel better from the exercise. And then, after a certain amount of time, and she continues it, then she'll start to look better. So what I'm saying is we go in stages, and it doesn't matter what the goal is. You start with the stages. So the first thing is just the psychological benefit of saying, yes, I can. Yes, I can. I can overcome this, or I have overcome this, or being in a place. You can create your reality. We already do. And we definitely will talk a little bit more about this, maybe not today, but when we talk about creating our reality and how we said this a few minutes ago, how reality is already kind of created for us, and we just kind of fall into these little niches and just kind of move along with everybody else as opposed to stopping and saying, wait a minute, just because everybody else doing that, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So you have to be in touch with yourself. You have to be in tune with yourself. As she said earlier about when you masturbate and you feel like something's taking you over, then you're not in touch. You're not in tune, and you're just kind of going with the wave. Exactly. You're going with the flow.
Yeah, you're not even aware. Yeah.
Right, but if you can recognize the self in there somewhere and pull it out of there and say, hey, self, come on, this is what we want to do. But then it's a process. So you might not be successful the first time, you might not be successful the second time. But that's what life is about. Life is a journey, and there are going to be challenges. Hopefully you overcome this one, and then hopefully there's another challenge for you, because that's how you build strength. That's how you build character.
There'll always be another challenge. With every new level you get to, your challenges change, but they're always there. But then, after a while, you start to see your challenges as something to get excited about. Right. It's like new opportunities to keep growing.
Because you're a creator.
Exactly.
And you're a designer, and you're tuned in to the part of you that looks forward to that. Unfortunately, you can get to a place where we're all trying to get there now, but we can get to the place where we can just look at situations and they just don't challenge you from the standpoint. You just don't get all riled up about it. You say, okay,
you've like graduated from that level.
It's still a challenge, and you're looking forward to it. And you say, okay, so how do I approach this? How do I, overcome this? I'm ready. So just look at each day like that, each moment like that. I mean, each moment that you can hold off, or each moment that you don't. Each moment that you don't masturbate is a moment. That's a plus for you.
Yeah.
So those minutes add up. The minutes turn into hours, and hours turn into days.
And then
days
you're in the
weeks.
Lifestyle.
Right. And then you're at the place where it's like, I feel like it today, I'll do it today. Or I don't feel like it today, I won't do it today. You know what I mean? But it's not like,
it's not like stressing you out and just like over like impacting your life in other areas. I would say, because that's like the main thing that people who do NoFap, like the main reason is because they recognize that their problem, I don't want even that problem, but their issue is literally impacting other parts of their life. It's slowing their growth in other areas of their life. But eventually you'll get to a point, just like when you're healthy, you'll get to a point where you can have a soda and not freak out over it. And like you can have,
That's a good point. I mean, we're all individuals, so I mean, I'm just going to kind of piggyback off of that example, because it can go so many different directions. But if you're somebody that is, striving to live a healthy lifestyle, you probably won't even want the soda. I mean, you'll get to a place where you just won't want it. It's not even congruent. That means it doesn't align with you energetically. It's not something that you crave anymore.
Right.
You'll get to that place. But I mean, even if you did decide to have one, like you said about the pizza, you'd be like, yeah, I don't want this anymore. So that's what I was saying about just hanging in there till you can get over the hump to the place where you can say, okay, I'm in control again. And so there's ways that we can do that. And that's kind of what we talked about when we talk about transformation versus willpower. Willpower is just trying to will it with your mind.
Yeah, it's like denying yourself something that deep down you want, so it doesn't have, because it's like willpower. Yeah, it's like inner resistance you're creating. Willpower, like as opposed to just I actually want a better life, and so
everything is in harmony.
Yeah,
everything is flowing together.
Harmony, right.
Will, like you said, is that's there's some type of resistance on some level, because guess what? If there wasn't any resistance, you wouldn't have to use willpower.
Right.
It would just be a flow. It would be a harmonious, one continuous harmonious situation. So,
but it is true though, like what you said earlier though, that maybe in like the beginning stages, you might be using a little bit of willpower just because you're changing something. Like if you're, anytime you're gonna make a huge transition in your life, willpower you would need within like the first chunk of that transition. But after that, it doesn't, you don't need willpower anymore. And in order to like stick it out in those beginning moments where you need that willpower, is to have a clear why, have a clear reason for why you're doing this, and something where you can come back to, and like you want your why to be something that sparks inspiration out of you. So so for a lot of people, they say, I want to make it 90 days on NoFap. And why? And it's like, just because I want to see if I can do it. It's like, okay, like that's a good motivation, but it's not necessarily something that's going to carry you through the entire challenge. Like, you need to do it because you want to transform yourself, like because you want to have healthy relationships. Yeah, because you want to master your energy. You want to be in control. So, yeah. Yeah, what do you think? Maybe we could end it here, and then we could do another live on my channel.
That's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Cool.
Well, thanks for sticking around. Oh, hey, Justin, what's up? Thanks, you guys, for coming and sticking around. If you want to see more, we're going to head over to my channel and do more. Let's see. It's true what you said. If you can overcome your sexual urges, you can overcome any addiction. Yeah. I think sexuality is actually the main thing that powers almost all of our actions. Like, they say that everything is about sex pretty much. And like on a spectrum, of course. It's like you have things that are about sex that are literally sex. And then you have things that are about sex that are just about like just even more mild desires, like eating and stuff like that. It's still a form of sex. It's like still you exchanging your energy with something else.
Right. I think that that's true as far as if you can overcome this, then you can overcome pretty much anything. I think mainly because not everything, but a lot of the challenges that we deal with and face are external to ourselves. So we're dealing with stuff external, but when we gain control of ourselves, then we definitely have control of what we allow within us. Yeah. This is something this is an inner struggle. And it's not the only inner struggle. I mean, people have other types of inner struggles, but when you can overcome the inner struggle, then you can definitely overcome the external stuff.
Definitely.
Because, when you overcome the inner stuff, that means you're back in control. You're back in charge of yourself. And it takes a little work, but it can be done. So, yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. And we'll see you in a second on Ahana.
See you later. So shortly.